Now 5 o'clock. We have a quorum logged in. At this time, we will adjourn to closed session and be back for open session at approximately 6 p.m. All right, gang, if everybody shuts down and we'll go to closed.
Okay.
Hey, Brent. (17) and we'll now reconvene into open session. Thank you all for joining us tonight. A reminder that the meetings of the board are open to the public, but are not meetings of the public. The Humble ISD Board of Trustees meet monthly in a regular meeting to receive reports from staff, take action from recommendations of the superintendent. The board does not receive, or the board, does receive the agenda and all supporting documents several days in advance of the regular meetings. This allows us to ask and receive answers to many of our questions in advance of the regular meeting. Therefore, lengthy discussions are not always necessary on every agenda item. That is not meant to say that questions aren't asked and aren't answered. We do have the appropriate knowledge and preparation for responses regarding the content of the meeting tonight. There are, when we're in public, there's always students and other guests present. Maintain that decorum through this format. We will have some folks that will be speaking, some community members that will be speaking, and we will ask them the same, just to be respectful in behavior and so forth. But with that said, let's go to our first item, and that is our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, Texas flag. Honor to the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Oh, I just messed that one up, didn't I? We're going to do that again, and I apologize. I had it on the wrong screen, and it's been a while. So let's do that again. Honor to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. So I do apologize for that. Anyway, our next item is a moment of silence. We'll take just a second as a moment of silence. Perfect. Thank you very much. Dr. Fagan, commendations and recognitions. Each month, Public Communications provides you with some really neat things that are happening. And I know we're still in a very difficult time, but commendations and recognitions for tonight. Yes, so we're going to start with tonight's inspiring moments. Graduation is a recognition and a celebration of 13 years of dedication and achievement from kindergarten through 12th grade. We are so excited to celebrate our graduates next week at Turner Stadium. Humble ISD is a family, and we appreciate everyone's patience and support as we work to make this special event possible. It is going to take all of us working together to keep our friends, our family, and our community safe and still celebrate our graduates. Tonight's inspiring moment provides a preview of what to expect at Humble ISD graduations next week.
Congratulations to the class of 2020. You are joining in the tradition of generations before you by graduating at Humble ISD's Turner Stadium. Help us make it a great celebration for everyone. We've established a few procedures in the best interest of graduates, family, and friends, and look forward to seeing everyone doing their part. First, when you arrive, please have your parking tags displayed on your dashboard so that police officers can direct you into the lots. Parking tags will be in the packets that graduates pick up from their schools. Parking will be limited, so it is important that your tags are visible. Second, graduates should check in an hour and 15 minutes prior to the start of the ceremony. Graduates should go directly to the graduate staging area. Only graduates and faculty will be allowed in this area. For family and friends, stadium gates will open 1 hour prior to the ceremony. Family and friends should enter at the gate that matches the color of your ticket: blue, green, orange, or yellow. Every guest, regardless of age, must have a ticket to gain entrance to the seating area. Color-coded tickets help maintain physical distancing. They manage pedestrian flow through the 4 gates, as well as manage stadium capacity. Families are requested not to bring signs, balloons, bat heads, and noisemakers so that all families can hear their graduate's name called and see their graduates. These items should be left in your vehicle. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has issued an executive order. Every person in Texas shall wear a face covering over the nose and mouth when in an outdoor public space wherever it is not feasible to maintain 6 feet of social distancing from another person not in the same household. Once you have entered the stadium, an usher will direct you to seats aligned with the color of your tickets. Your graduate also will be seated on the field in the section that is aligned with your ticket's colors. Please be aware that ushers plan to fill higher rows first and will try to seat those with mobility impairments on lower rows as feasible. Please sit with family members in your household and leave space between your family and others in the stands. Of course, it will be hot. For our graduates on their big day, dress comfortably and appropriately for the temperature and humidity. Flat shoes are recommended for the graduates to walk on the turf field. Graduates will be given a bottle of water, a commemorative towel, and a commemorative mask. Family and friends are asked to bring their own towel and water. Additionally, the district will have cooling stations on the concourse area for anyone in need. Don't forget that anyone can watch graduation from the comfort of their home. Avoid the heat and click on TexanLive.com for the live stream. Thank you, TexanLive.com. Find the link at humbleisd.net. Once the ceremony starts, graduate names will be called in generalized alphabetical order. But the order may not be exact this year. The state prohibited graduation practices. Please be attentive so you don't miss your graduate's special moment. If there is a rainout, we have a plan. Any ceremony that cannot be held at 8 p.m. will be held at 8 a.m. the next weekday or at 8 p.m. on Saturday or Sunday if needed. Once the ceremony is over, please exit the property and avoid congregating. Remember, sit with family members in your household. Leave space between your family and others in the stands, and live stream is available to view from home. Graduation is a defining moment. Working together with everyone doing their part, we can create a special memory that will last a lifetime.
And that concludes our accommodations and recognitions for this evening. I just want to do a little brief shout out and say great job to our public communications team, Jonathan Fry, for putting that video together and really representing Humble ISD well and giving everyone a preview of the kind of things that we can do together to make graduation successful and also safe.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Fagan. The next item on our agenda is questions and comments by patrons or employees of the district regarding agenda items or any other matters. The board encourages comments from citizens of the district or from the district employees. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative of a group, may do so following the procedure outlined on the agenda. The board asks that comments pertain to public education issues and be no longer than 5 minutes. Remember that the board may not discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on our agenda for tonight's meeting. If an issue mentioned is listed on tonight's agenda, the board will defer discussion until the appropriate time during the course of the meeting. In addition, the board has adopted complaint processes that are designed to secure at the lowest administrative level a prompt and equitable resolution of complaints and concerns. Complaints brought by students or their parents by employees and by citizens may be heard in accordance with board policies. Each of these processes provides that if a resolution cannot be achieved administratively, the person may appeal the administrative decision to the board as a properly posted agenda item. Copies of our district policies can be found on the Humble ISD website. Ms. Martin, if you will serve as our timekeeper tonight, I would appreciate that. We have a list. We have, I think, 6 members of the public that would like to speak tonight. And the first person is Catherine Soberon. I probably just tore up that last name, and I apologize. Catherine. Is Catherine in the holding area?
Mr. Sutton, I think they were going by a different order, like who signed up first. So they're probably getting her.
Okay. For those watching this on live stream or via Zoom, I apologize. Just hang in there with us for a second.
They're not on. They're not available at the time.
Okay. So the next one I have, Dina Tatum.
They were on, and now they're not on.
Okay. All right. Jennifer Carpenter.
Mr. Sutton, for Jennifer Carpenter, we do not see a Jennifer Carpenter. We see a Ms. Carpenter. I've tried to contact because they need to sign in with their first and last name, which I've instructed them to do. I sent a second email to ask, if you're on there to sign in with first and last name. And the last I spoke to Rusty, we do not have a Jennifer Carpenter signed up. So we may have to pass on her also.
All right.
Jennifer Carpenter is not on the list.
Okay,
Or
thank
not
you.
in- not in-
Stephen Spencer.
Stephen is in the meeting.
Okay, Mr. Spencer, you're on mute. You need to unmute your line, and when you're ready, you will have 5 minutes.
Great, thank you. I'm with my
Hello.
wife.
Our concerns were regarding whether we would be making wearing a mask mandatory rather than discretionary. And also had a question regarding whether extracurriculars would still be proceeding this school year.
Things such as theater and theater arts in general. Also choir, how are they going to be handling things of that nature? Not things that are outside of the sports as well. We're just wondering, because of the recommendations that were put on the Humble ISD website recently were saying about masks, that they would be something that's optional but recommended,
encouraged but not required. So
And now the state is saying that we should all be wearing masks inside for the entire time periods. I'm just wondering how that's going to work. If you have any updates.
Okay, as we were talking earlier, the board cannot comment on things that are not on the agenda, but I will ask Dr. Fagan and a member of her team to reach out to you guys with specific answers.
Okay,
thank you.
appreciate
All
it.
right. Thank you very much for being here. All right. Next, we have Christina Young.
I'm here.
All right, Ms. Young, thank you for being here. And when you're ready, you have 5 minutes. And just to remind you that the board cannot comment on things that are not directly on the agenda. And with specific questions that you're looking for answers, I will defer that to Dr. Fagan and her team to reach out to you after the meeting. But you have 5 minutes to ask your questions and give your comments.
Thank you. I know you can't answer, but just some things to consider. First off, if a teacher gets exposed to COVID and has to be quarantined for 14 days, some things to think about. Is it their sick days that are going to be taken away? Because I know if you go on maternity leave because you have a kid, you wipe out all your sick days for those 6 weeks. And I know COVID is 14 days of quarantine. So is that going to be teacher sick days, or how is that going to be handled? Because it's not our fault that we got exposed from somebody else at work. Another thing to think of is if that teacher is out, how is a substitute going to come in and handle it? Is the teacher going to switch to all their classes online and still be expected to teach from home while quarantined from COVID, or is there going to be a sub that's going to handle it? Because I know in the past we've had shortages of subs, especially on Mondays and Fridays. Are we going to be able to find subs who will be able to take a 14-day extent because of those quarantine issues? Also, what are the testing policies? I know some of my coworkers have tested positive this summer. Are they going to be required to retest before school starts? And if you do get exposed, how many times are you going to have to be tested until you're cleared? Are we going to have dividers, like plexiglass dividers like the state capitol does, to help try to prevent the spread of COVID between the student's desk, the teacher desk, and each individual student? And I know in elementary school, those kids are in class, so you can quarantine a whole class, but in high school, they switch classes. You can have anywhere from 150 to 200 students that you see every day. So, and I know there's contact tracing, but that's a lot of kids. What's going to happen if there's a big outbreak in a high school?
Okay, perfect. Ms. Young, anything else that you want to make sure that we're looking at?
Oh, also, like I know some of my coworkers are of age to be scared and they have health concerns. Is there going to be an opportunity for those individuals to go straight online teaching until there's a vaccination?
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for all your questions. And I think some of those may be answered tonight. Outside of that, we'll have someone reach out to you after the meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stephanie, Ms. Mayor, we had a little bit of a glitch. A couple of the folks that we skipped are now in the proverbial green room. I don't know if it's protocol or not, but I would like the opportunity to go back and allow them to speak, since they did sign up prior to 4 p.m. Is that, from a legal standpoint, can we do that?
Absolutely. We're still in the public comment section of the meeting, and it would be board president prerogative as well.
Okay, I think that would only be fair. Can we get Jennifer Carpenter up?
Coming online.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Ms. Carpenter, you are currently muted. If you can unmute your line. You're going to have 5 minutes, but I do want to remind you that anything that's not specifically on the agenda, the board will not be able to comment on. but we do want to hear what you have to say and take notes to make sure we get relevant answers from Dr. Fagan and her team. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay, great. Hi. So my name is Jennifer Carpenter, and I'm a teacher at Humble Middle School. Before I begin, I would like to thank the board, Dr. Fagan, and our principal, Ms. Johnson, for their leadership during this difficult time. Last year was my first year in Humble ISD, and I'm very proud and grateful to be a part of the Humble ISD family. I understand that the board is limited by Governor Abbott and the TEA as to what actions it may take regarding the timing and plans for the safe reopening of our schools. However, I'm here today to ask you to advocate for beginning the year with distance learning. It's clear that Texas and especially Harris County are in a state of crisis at the moment. And we know from our experience in the spring that distance learning, while inconvenient for our families and not at all what we want, is the safest approach at this time. Regardless of when we're called upon to return to in-person instruction, I would like to request that the board considering the following measures to protect students and staff. Require and provide PPE, including masks and or face shields for students and staff, disinfecting campuses on a daily basis, and limiting class sizes to allow for distancing or provide protective dividers for our students. And as we return to in-person instruction, it's inevitable that staff members will become infected. There have been reports, as you are all aware, of recovery taking weeks. If a staff member is infected during in-person instruction, I'd like to request that the board consider the following measures in order to protect these individuals from financial and professional hardships. Allowing teachers to resign at the end of 9 weeks without penalty, not requiring liability waivers in order to return to work, providing paid leave without using the personal days, and not penalizing teachers and staff for appraisals and renewals as it relates to COVID, to COVID-related absences. And like I said before, I'm fully aware that your hands are tied in this situation as to what you're able to do. And what should have been a public health issue has turned into a political nightmare. And I urge you guys just to remember, please, that politicians come and go, but our communities do not. The effects of the decisions being made in the coming weeks and months will long outlast anybody's political terms. And in closing, I just wanted to return to the notion of family. Part of our vision for this district is to maintain and grow the family-like culture of Humble ISD in the best interest of our students, staff, and community. And I just ask as you remember during this time as you navigate and make these decisions, that you make decisions based as if we were your spouses or your children or your staff, a member of your own family. The staff and students at Humble Middle School have indeed become part of my family. And I believe so strongly that HMS is a special place to be, that whenever and however we are called back to service, I will be there to support our staff, our campus, and our students. And so I thank you for your time. And again, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming in and giving us your comments, your questions, potential solutions. And I know I took a few notes, and I know several members of Dr. Fagan's staff are on this. So some of those answers will be coming shortly, others in the next few days. So please be patient. All right. Next, I believe Miss Dina Tatum. She kind of got booted off by accident, and I believe she's back. Is that right?
She is not back. Let's go to Miss Soberon next.
Okay, Miss Soberon is here. Okay,
Okay.
Let's go with Miss Soberon. Thank you.
She's coming in right now.
All right, thank you. All right, we have Ms. Catherine Soberon. Your line is currently muted. I need you to unmute that. Again, you will have 5 minutes to ask your questions or make your comments. If it's not specifically on our agenda, the board cannot specifically answer your questions, but some of those questions probably will be answered before the end of the night through comments. And anything outside of that, Dr. Fagan and her team will be more than happy to get back with you. So with that said, when you're ready, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address the board tonight. I'm a teacher at Atascocita High School, and I would respectfully request that the board give teachers the same option they're giving parents regarding face-to-face versus virtual instruction. There are many teachers who are eager and comfortable with returning to the classroom, and there are teachers like me who, because of age, I'm 62, or health issues or vulnerable family members. My husband has cancer, my mother is 90 and has pulmonary fibrosis. We are fearful of returning. And so I would ask that you create a separate team of teachers to teach the online sections of classes for the students who have elected to learn from home. And again, that all teachers have the opportunity to choose the option that works best for them and their families. So I just would like to thank you for your consideration of this.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming in and giving your comments, and we will be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Allison Davis, is she online?
She's coming in right now.
All right, perfect. All right, Ms. Davis, thank you for being here. Your line is currently muted, so we'll need to unmute that. You will have 5 minutes. Remind you that if it's not specifically on our agenda, the board cannot answer directly those questions. Some of those answers may come throughout comments during the course of the meeting, though. But with that said, you have 5 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Sitton. Yes, my name is Allison Davis. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Timbers Elementary. I really wanted to come forward and express some concern as both a staff member and a parent of 3 Humble ISD students who are in elementary school. I emailed the entire board of trustees, including the superintendent, sharing my concerns regarding the current reopening plan, especially as it pertains to elementary schools. And I asked questions about the procedures that were related to confirmed positive COVID cases on campuses, and I offered my suggestions. And in return, I received an email from Mr. Sitton that did not address any of my specific concerns, but instead it offered his opinions and assurances that the board and the superintendent have proven their trustworthiness in the past when it comes to decision making. I was also assured that my concerns were being heard, even though none of them were addressed in his response. And several hours later, Nancy Morrison responded with the identical email response that Mr. Sitton had sent, which really made me feel even more like I was not being heard, despite it saying I was being heard, because it was an identical email from both of the board members. A couple of days later, I received the same response again from Mr. Sitton a second time, and it just seemed as though maybe you had forgotten that you'd already responded to my email, which I think you can imagine that would also increase my frustration to feeling like I still was not being heard. And so just in general, it's been a very frustrating experience for me as a parent and an employee to not get any real answers to any of my questions. Assistant Superintendent Lucy Schultz did call me. She was a former principal of mine when she worked at Timbers Elementary. I've known her for several years now, and she did call to listen to my concerns, but she was not authorized or able to give me any answers to any of my questions. So again, I just felt like I wasn't being heard or really listened to or given any information that was giving me any comfort whatsoever. And so I wanted to express my concern and disappointment in this whole process of reaching out to the board. And I'm wondering if there is a better alternative for staff and parents to reach the board to express concerns where they actually will be heard and addressed. Because right now I don't feel like that was the case for me. And the lack of public communication is causing me a lot of frustration and personal distress. And I just need you to know that I'm not the only staff member in Humble ISD that feels this way. And I just, I really need you to hear me say that, because there's a lot of us, staff members, parents of students, who are afraid to enter the building on August 3rd. And I hope that you've heard me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Davis. All right, is there, Dina Tatum, did she ever make it back on?
No, sir, she did not.
Okay, all right, so with that said, we are gonna
Mr.
move.
Sin, there
Yes.
is Mr. Steven Spencer, I believe
He's already talked.
okay, I apologize for that. Great.
Yeah, he's already talked. Okay, so shouldn't be anyone left in the green room, so to speak. So let's move on to item G, comments by individual board members. Ms. Morrison.
Yes. Excuse me for being muted. I just want to say I want to compliment all the staff for all they've gone through. Okay, because I know it has not been easy. It hasn't been, it's not easy for all of us because everything changes on a daily basis. I do want to say thank you to Lakeshore staff today. I attended their Spark meeting, and a huge thank you to our construction department for all the help that they're giving Lakeshore on their park, and also just complimenting the parents and the staff for sending us their concerns. I know we can't do everything perfect, but I know we're working very hard to do the very best for our students.
Thank you, Ms. Morrison. Mr. Engelage.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also like to say thank you to Dr. Fagan and her staff for their incredible work that they've done so far, and an amazing year that's going to be. I can already tell it's going to be a crazy year, but it's going to be a great year too. I have total confidence, and I appreciate all that she and her staff have done. I only see her on this video, but I'm sure there's a whole lot more out there that I don't see, but I want to say thank you to them because I know it's going to be a great year, really do. And finally, on a personal note, a week from tonight, our youngest daughter will graduate at Kingwood Park High School. Hopefully there will be no rain, so I hope it's going to be a week from tonight. And my wife and I would like to thank so many staff members, Bear Branch, Creekwood Middle School, Kingwood Park High School, that have taught our daughters and loved on them and been there for them. It's going to be really a bittersweet night. It's just amazing to think that in 2008, when I first got on the board, they were in kindergarten and first grade. It's just a crazy how that time has blown by. But thank you so much for all the staff that have participated in that. It's been an amazing journey. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Scarfo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to also echo my thanks to Dr. Fagan and staff. I mean, it's to say you guys have been doing a yeoman's job is an understatement. This is just not stopped, and there's no end in sight. But you keep hanging in there as those curveballs come. You keep hitting them out. So that's just great, and just thanks for all your efforts. And I'll just leave it at that. Just Godspeed to all of you. You're just doing great work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez.
Just to echo again, thank you, Dr. Fagan and your staff. The amount of work that you and your staff has performed this year, this summer, has just been crazy. Usually it's a time to kind of ease it back a little bit other than the budget, but you guys have just been inundated, and I appreciate it as a parent of a child in our district and as a stakeholder and as a board member. So thank you and your staff for all the work that you've done. Also, I'm looking forward to graduation. I'm glad we're able to have one. It's going to be a little warm out there, but I think we'll be able to give at least some semblance of normalcy to our kids who are graduating and our families of those children. And so I'm looking forward to that. But that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Toomey.
So I'm going to keep my comments extremely brief because I know that Dr. Fagan has, more detail in the comments that she wants to give today. But I just want to, as the other board members have said, I want to thank Dr. Fagan and the rest of the administrative staff that have been working tirelessly. We receive emails, numerous emails every single day with people expressing not only concern, but also appreciation, which those are wonderful emails, but then the concern. And then we get stopped as we walk down the street, we go into the grocery store on a daily basis. We're getting stopped and asked questions. And I just want everyone to know that we hear you. Dr. Fagan hears you. I can guarantee you that she is not sleeping well at night. She is staying up, thinking through all of this and every little detail that we want to all know the answers to. Her and her team are working on it. And I just want to say thank you to her and her team for the effort that she is putting into that. And thank you so much for just sticking to it and allowing graduation to be moving forward this next week. None of us wanted to go to 25%. We had to make that tough call, but you have stuck to it, and it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lamont Dixon.
Yes, well, first off, I'd like to say this week I had the pleasure to serve on 5 panels to answer questions about our reopening plans. And of course, that changes on a daily basis. But I'd like to thank Lone Star College Kingwood and the Kingwood chapter of Jack and Jill for having me this week. It was a pleasure. Also, a huge thank you to Dr. Fagan for making sure that I had the correct answers to the questions that fell under operations under that umbrella. I appreciate your assistance. I'd also like to thank my fellow board members for your eloquent comments at last month's board meeting regarding our continued commitment to being a welcoming district to all students. And the comments tonight, I know we can't directly speak to those, but I would like to assure everyone, teachers, parents, students, we have the same exact concerns, and these are trying times we find ourselves in. And I just want to ask that we are flexible and trust the work that is being done. Like Ms. Toomey said, a lot is happening. Everybody's working around the clock, and it changes daily, as we can all see even in the news. And I know this is challenging, but just please know the board and the administration has the best interest of our students, faculty, staff, parents in mind with every single decision that they are making. And also just to note, a lot of us board members have children or grandchildren in the district, and we want what's best for your children as well as our own. So it's all being taken into consideration. And just another note that, even though we are making all of those considerations, ultimately we still fall under the umbrella of TEA and the governor's office. So not all of the decisions that are made are ours to make. But I would like to thank Dr. Fagan and the team and her team for all of their hard work. I truly appreciate it as a board member. And then lastly, the only thing I have is that I'm really looking forward to the graduations next week. That's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to be quite as brief tonight. I've got several things I want to mention before I turn it over to Dr. Fagan. First, on a personal note, I too have a son graduating next week. He'll be the third one. to graduate from one of our Humble ISD schools. Have one left that will be an 8th grader that is chomping at the bit. But I want to thank personally 2 people. There's probably, I know when you start doing this, you leave someone out. But I know that Melissa Hayhurst has been a huge influence on Keenan. She's been a huge influence on our family to get us to this point. And then secondly, to Lisa Drabing and her team at Kingwood Park that helped us get over the finish line. We could not have done it without you and your team and Melissa helping us get through those middle school years. So I just really wanted to personally thank y'all for everything you've done for our family. Secondly, to kind of piggyback on Ms. Lamont Dixon, we did talk last month at the board meeting about inclusion, diversity, and so forth. And one of the things that we are doing as a district is looking at our mission and vision statement. And I felt it was appropriate to at least kind of follow up on that, that is in the works. And at a future workshop with the board, we'll be looking at varying statements and terminology and how it all fits in with our family culture. So I want to make sure I mention that. Next, on the email communications to the board, because we do get so many, it is our common practice and part of our standard operating procedures that the board president does answer all those emails. And I do answer those emails and I do read through those. And when other board members respond, generally speaking, they want to make sure that you know that they got your message and that you're being heard. So if you'll indulge me, my comments in regards to what we're going through is specifically the email that was mentioned by one of our speakers tonight. And so I'm going to read this because I wrote this from my heart. And I think it's very important that you understand and realize that this has been my home my entire life. My entire family have gone through Humble ISD. I still have kids in Humble ISD. And what I'm about to read is for me and no one else. I can assure you the safe and well-being of our family is of the utmost priority. As you are well aware, our schools are the center and the backbone of our community. Gaining a sense of normalcy within a safe and healthy framework is a must. Dr. Fagan and her team are in continuous communication with TEA, the governor's office, Public Ed Chairman Huberty, as well as local and county officials. Following the governor's orders, along with TEA recommendations and CDC guidelines, while making it personalized to our community is no easy task. It continues to evolve and has reversed course more than once through this process. As you are aware, we purposely moved graduation to late July, early in the process to minimize family disruption and maximize planning. The idea of an early indication of what August may look like is for the same reasons. We know this could change for the better or for the worse the closer we get to opening day. Dr. Fagan has proven, in my opinion, to be a master at flexibility, planning, and maneuvering in short periods of time without being given much notice. In our current situation, we are being given broad instructions and interpretations. Her team is putting together multiple contingency plans to enable our family to do what we do best, and that's educate children and do it within the guidelines and framework of all stakeholders in the safest way possible. And I beg you to be patient and stay tuned, but know that your concerns are being heard, because your concerns are being heard. But the specific answers you're looking for, they're a changing dynamic. And when I turn it over to Dr. Fagan, I think she's going to be able to answer some of those questions because of the preparations that we and her team have put together. But that's why you didn't get, no one has gotten any specific answers to some of those absent questions, some of those PPE questions and so forth. But you are being heard. We are pulling all those questions together. This is family. We want our family to do what we do best, and that is educate kids. And we want us to do it in the safest manner possible, not just for our kids, but also for our staff, for our teachers. You guys are on the front line, and we appreciate everything that you do. I talked to someone today. They are not on a 12-month contract, but they have worked all summer long working on contingency plans because that's the dedication that they have for the students in Humble ISD. That's what our community is all about. We come together as one during trying times. We did it during Harvey. We've done it during other flooding. Now we're having to deal with a virus and so many other external factors out there. And trust me when I say this, there is not a board member on this board that hasn't listened to what you have to say and doesn't want what's best for every single person throughout this community, whether it's a pre-K student or a senior or a teacher or an aide or a bus driver or cafeteria worker. We are a family. We are Humble ISD. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Fagan.
Thank you so much. One thing I wanted to say before I get into the information I wanted to share this evening is that I think everyone knows this, but we're statewide under a governor's mask order. And so there's a lot of conversations about masks right now, and there's really no decision making at the local level at this point because that order is in place and it's very clear about indoor mask wear versus outdoor and all the pieces of it. Jonathan Fry did a great job of referencing it in the graduation video that we kicked off, the Inspiring Moments tonight. So I think that people are aware of that, but I just want to mention it because sometimes it pops up in emails and things. And so, we will obviously follow the executive orders of the governor as we move through this time. Along with that, it's 4 weeks from today that we would like to and will begin our 2021 school year. When we left on March 6th, that seems like so far away. And now after a summer of creating every imaginable scenario, 25%, 50% square footages, all local control, no local control. We've been everywhere. After going through all of these exercises all summer long, we're 4 weeks away. And we would like to, if the local health data will allow us, to move forward with our plan to employ a family-chosen blended model of instruction where families have a choice. They have 3 different choices. We've sent out surveys, you all know, 3 different options, all in person, which is sort of all in person at the secondary because it is an A-B day. Meaning that students will be online for 50% of the time for a certain amount of time. The all online choice, and then the all online plus UIL choice. As of today, earlier when I looked last before the board meeting, we have 38,179 responses. That's a lot of responses. Anyone who's ever done a survey would be thrilled with 10,000 responses, let alone 38,000. So I feel like we really have a good sense of where the heart of our community is on these topics. So I want to share tonight that approximately 68.3% of our families and students would like to return to the classroom. That's a strong percentage, and I will tell you that it was a little closer to 70 and now it's a little closer to 68, and each level varies slightly. Elementary is stronger. Middle school, a little weaker at about 64%, and high school maybe 65%, but all in that same arena. 7.2% of our students plan to learn online and participate in UIL activities. And then another 24.5% of our students would like to learn strictly online this year. And I think that this is a really great data set for multiple reasons, because knowing that 31.7% of our students have selected to do online learning, it reduces naturally by choice the number of students on our campuses, which allows for social distancing in all arenas, whether it's the classroom, whether it's allowing students to have lunch all over the campus, which we're encouraging, using outdoor spaces, being non-traditional in our thinking so that there can be social distancing in spaces that traditionally haven't had any. But with that reduction of students, that 31%, almost 32% of our students choosing online, that reduces our elementary numbers pretty significantly in classrooms that already have lower class sizes than we do in the secondary. With the AB schedule we intend to employ at the secondary, that cuts those numbers in half again. So of the 68.3% of on-campus students during any given day, there will only be 34% on campus, or 3.5 out of 10 students. So a class that normally has 30 students would have about 10 on any given day, which should allow our staff, all staff, to create a significant amount of space for social distancing in classrooms, hallways, lunch areas, on our buses, so forth and so on. And so we're really paying attention to this. You know, as a former high school science teacher, I think, okay, if, 30 would have been my largest class, 10 or fewer, I think I could manage that and maintain social distancing in my class. The definition of a contact is that you're within 6 feet of somebody for more than 15 minutes. So I would be really paying attention to making sure that I didn't do that and that I didn't require my students to do that, that we didn't share materials as much, that we used outside where possible, that we had sort of like staggered releases and things to bring down the numbers of kids in any one place at any one time. So in addition to all of those numbers that reduce that create opportunities for social distancing, we absolutely will follow the governor's orders, and we will welcome PPE for all staff and students, no matter what they feel is appropriate for their own personal safety. We will embrace that. No different than the healthcare profession, no different than you see in other industries where some people are wearing gloves and some people are wearing shields and masks. We embrace all of that. We had just recently, we participated in the TEA statewide procurement of PPE, or personal protective equipment. And we have received 42 pallets of PPE in Humble ISD. And our incredible warehouse folks who have been so flexible this summer, you have to think about all these things that don't happen when things aren't normal, like who's going to receive the UPS packages for all the things that we ordered in the spring for the next fall? Who's going to make sure that the lunches get moved around the district as we're doing curbside to go? Now you have a group of warehouse folks who are distributing 42 pallets worth of PPE to campuses for staff use and for students who don't have access, who are not able but want access to PPE. I've actually had some other local community groups reach out wanting to make shields available for students. So there's a lot of conversation about this where people want to help, and we want to support families in ensuring the safety that they feel is best for their children. Those PPE items include masks, face shields, gloves, and hand sanitizer, just in case folks are wondering what's there. In addition to that, outdoor learning opportunities, flexibility in choosing lunch spaces will be encouraged. Specials will be reconsidered to ensure social distancing. I know those are some of the questions that we've been getting. Shared materials will be significantly reduced. For example, we have had some performing arts wheels for our elementary schools that we're piloting. We ordered more instruments so that we don't have to share as many instruments or any instruments for this particular reason. Our goal is to create the opportunity for everyone who wants to be on campus, to feel safe, and to have the opportunity to wear the equipment that makes them feel safe, to have the social distancing that they need to be safe. In addition to all of that, principals and department leaders have been encouraged to visit with staff members who have personal concerns and extenuating circumstances. It is true, we will need online sections of courses. So it just makes sense to match people's strengths and needs to the needs of their campus. And that's absolutely something that we're working on. And where those needs exceed the ability of principals to do so, HR is happy to step in. I think it's important, we've heard tonight about leave. There's a lot of different leave available. It's a little confusing, but we will absolutely coach folks who need this information. Somebody on a 14-day quarantine requirement needs 10 days of leave because of the weekends. And emergency leave applies immediately. That's 10 days of paid leave for a qualifying reason. The list includes things like a positive test, childcare for the school day closure, ordered home by a healthcare provider, a stay-at-home order, etc. It's paid 100%. With a cap. There's now FMLA Plus, where an employee must be at least 30 days up to 12 weeks of leave as long as they qualify. And the only qualifying reason is you can't work from home and have to provide childcare due to a school or daycare closure, but it's not paid 100%. Traditional FMLA leave, no change from the previous CV-19 laws, must be employed 12 months up to 12 weeks of leave, qualifying medical condition, and it's unpaid. And additionally, beyond all of that, there are a few new federal leave laws that have come into play, making paid leave available for employees starting from their first day with Humble ISD, depending on their reason for qualifying for the leave. A person who tests positive, is caring for someone who tests positive, or is directed to stay home by a medical provider, they would be entitled to 10 days of paid leave, which has been in place for years, but applies and available for employees. So this is not an exhaustive list. That's why we're encouraging employees who work directly with their supervisor, share their personal needs, say, you know, if I could have this plexiglass divider, if I could have this thing in my room, I'd be good to go. That's great. But when those things are not enough, or we can't match up the teaching field and the online needs, then the next level is to work with human resources. Or if it is the case of a quarantine need or a sick child, those kind of things. There's a lot of leave available now. And HR will be your expert in that arena. I know that we're all very well aware of the current surge in Texas and in Harris County. We are on calls about this nearly every day. I am very proud and want to say this publicly of our medical systems in Houston and in the state in general. I feel like they inspire great confidence in all of us and our local systems as well. They've been very supportive of us and given us a lot of good information. They're making adjustments to their normal operations to meet the needs of the community, and that's exactly how Humble ISD aspires to be. So I want to say this final thing. We are and we will continue to monitor the community spread data. We absolutely will. With this coronavirus, things change quickly and they change dramatically. And so one day you feel like it's going to go in a certain direction and it goes in a different direction. And I believe that quality leadership in a time like that doesn't rush to make a decision, but makes decisions just in time based on the information available. I think it's our responsibility and our greatest challenge to stay abreast of the current information and make just-in-time decisions that are in the best interest of our students, staff, and community. So I would ask for people, please understand that we do have plans in place for August 11, 2020. Of course we do, and of course we should. That is our responsibility to be prepared. We also will stay in tune with all of the updated community health data. And if we need to make any changes, we will absolutely do that. And we will make our changes no later than August 1st. And I know that a lot of folks want information right now, but it's 4 weeks away from the start of school. And we have watched things change week by week in an incredible fashion. And so it feels too soon to get out in front and make quick decisions when we really need more information. In the meantime, we're doing a lot of prep work in all directions. We're rebuilding our master schedules to accommodate our students' reservations and plans. We're training our teachers in preparation for online learning. You're going to hear more about that later. And I am beyond thrilled with our curriculum professional development department. They are superheroes. Nothing short of that. They have put together an incredible program and plan and opportunity for us in literally days that will allow us to launch a quality asynchronous online experience for all Humble ISD students, an educational experience we can be proud of for every one of the students who need to stay at home to learn online. One that their parents are going to be excited about, one that's going to be manageable for all of us, that's going to generate ADA funding. Again, later you'll hear from Ann Johnson and her team, and they are the ones that are working magic in this time, because our core mission is education. And we have to make sure that every child, whether they're in person or online, has an exceptional and quality education that we're known for. Our teachers would never stand for less, but this has been a really fast turnaround, and they've done a great job. So I will let them tell the rest of that story later. We're also ordering supplies, thinking differently about our habits, and maintaining social distancing where we can. A contact is someone that you're within 6 feet of for 15 or more minutes. That's the number today. Those things change. It used to be 30 minutes. As we work to meet the needs of our staff and our students as individual people, and not just blanket policies, but instead meeting those individual needs and circumstances, which is what we want to do. It's the kind of district we are. We aspire to be a personalized place that shows the growth of individual students against their own goals, not the goals of the state, not the goals of anyone else, but what they want, what they need. These are the kind of values we hold and the way that we are measuring our actions and our decisions right now. And we certainly appreciate all of the feedback, all of the input. We appreciate the comments, the concerns, and more than anything right now, we genuinely appreciate the nice notes, the patience, the folks who say, we know who you are and how you operate, and so we're putting our faith there, and thank you for everything you're doing, and we're praying for you, and all of those things. Those are great emails to receive right now, so thank you for those also. Please, if you have questions or concerns, individual circumstances, and I would really encourage everyone to focus on the needs that you have so that we can work to address those specifically. When you look at a body of people, 45,000 students, 5,000 staff, it's very difficult and overwhelming. But when you get down to the individual needs of each student and every staff member, it's manageable because we have leaders in place who will help you and work through the concerns that you have. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not everything great. That's just not the circumstance of the moment, but just know that that is our goal. So I appreciate all of the time everyone has allowed me to speak. I hope that additional information is helpful, understanding that with the number and percentages of students who have chosen online, we do have more space in our campuses, and we do feel like we have to monitor the data and we may have to make a change. But as of right now, we have solid plans in place that we need to have in place, and we'll make the best decisions as we move forward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fagan. Appreciate you and appreciate your team and all the work that y'all are doing. Next item on our agenda is board and associations and committees. First up, Advocacy Committee, Ms. Toomey.
No update at this time.
Okay, Audit Committee, Ms. Morrison.
Yes, we are completing, the district is completing annual inventories for the support services and textbooks. We're wrapping up and publishing change in management audits for the departments, completing the review of special ed and dyslexia and refined ADA for the HB3 coding audit. The audit department is completing the safety risk assessment and also beginning the planning phases for the upcoming campus operational audits for 2021.
All right, thank you very much. Building and planning, that would be me. You'll see several things on the agenda tonight. Architect selection for theatrical lighting, update on Kingwood Middle School replacement contractor selection that we'll be voting on. Phase 3 of the FEMA flood mitigation plan at Kingwood High School we'll be voting on. And then during our information items, we'll get an update on the Kingwood High School, Kingwood Park High School gym and CTE program expansions, the permanent home for Quest Early College High School, and renovations to Humble High School. So really neat things happening. One thing I do want to add is, I think I mentioned this at our last board meeting, but when you look at the items on the bond study, every major project that was voted on and approved is either in some form of completion, bid process, architect selection, contractor selection, money has been allocated, etc., with the exception of the EOC expansion and the groups 3 and 4 of the elementary multipurpose rooms. Everything else that, including most of the priority ones, are either being done, have been done, or in the process. So I want to thank you all for the support, and our next meeting will be July 23rd. And with that, we'll move on to the evaluation committee. Ms. Dixon.
Yes, so our first committee meeting will be on Monday, and we'll actually in that meeting begin the initial conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I actually like to call DEI. And we're just gonna see how it fits into the overall strategic plan. Also soon I'll have Karen send out dates to schedule our annual board retreat. And I know that's always challenging to get us all together on the same day and time. And of course, tonight in our second closed session, the entire board will be meeting to discuss Dr. Fagan's annual evaluation. So that's it.
Thank you very much. Finance Committee, Mr. Scarfo.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report other than we are having a meeting on Thursday.
Mr. Scarfo, do we have a date on the bond sale?
I do not have one in front of me. Mr. Seal
Okay.
may have it.
Yep, Mr. Sitton, that is on the 22nd.
The 22nd. And remind me again, what is the total amount we're selling this time?
The amount is $200 million. We have picked a perfect time. There's a significantly lower percentage of people nationwide selling bonds than they normally are, so we expect an outstanding sale.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Education Foundation, Ms. Morrison.
Yes. On behalf of the Education Foundation Board, I would like to give an update on who is serving on the Executive Committee for 2021. Jim Carranza is the chair. Deborah Rose Miller is vice chair. Mike Feld is treasurer. Bonnie Lanyon at large. Lynette Calfee at large. Dr. Fagan and myself, school board liaison. Additionally, we have 5 new board members joining the foundation this school year, and they are Julie Arsenault, Daniel Contreras, Tracy Meth, Joshua Morrison, and Daniela Subera. And one last update, the leadership team for the Humble Rodeo and Barbecue Cook-Off for 2021 will be: President will be Stacy Williams, returning Vice Presidents are Larry Buford, Robert Comstock, and Letitia Clens. 2 new Vice Presidents are Tom Huberty and Robert Sitton, Mr. Sitton. At this time, I would like to thank outgoing Humble Rodeo President Adam Foster and outgoing Chair of the Education Foundation, India Loth. These were both great leaders in their own right, and we are very grateful for their service that ultimately benefited Humble ISD students, of which they did an awesome job. And these folks are ready to get working, and so I'm excited to work with them.
Fantastic, fantastic. And nothing to report on the Kingwood Super Neighborhood Council. So let's move on to action items from closed session. Ms. Toomey, do we have any motions from closed session?
We do. I move that the board approve the administration's personnel recommendations as presented in closed session with addendum.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye or raise your right hand. All right, 7-0. Next item.
I move to rescind the proposed non-renewal of Miss Angelina Jimenez's term contract, issue a term contract for the 2020-2021 school year, and authorize the superintendent to take all actions regarding the same.
All right, have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That will be 7-0. Anything else from closed session?
One more, I move to adopt and approve the attached third resolution of the Board of Trustees in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency and delegate authority to the superintendent as stated therein.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor? That would be 7-0. Thank you very much. Now let's move through our consent agenda, and Ms. Toomey, if you will take notes for me so you can read this back at the end. Item 5A, approval of minutes from the special board meeting held on Tuesday, June the 2nd. Consent. Item B, approval of minutes for the regular board meeting held on Tuesday, June the 9th. Consent. Item C, approval of minutes for the special board meeting held on Tuesday, June the 16th. Consent. Item D, goods services, professional services, non-construction services exceeding $50,000 in the aggregate or $25,000 individually. Consent. Item E, budgetary transfers and amendments, including a transfer out for non-recurring expenditures. Consent. Item F, waiver of P&I. Consent. Item G, refunds over $500. Consent. Item H, board authorization of interlocal agreements. Consent. Item I, 2020-2021 optional flexible school day program.
Mr. President, did we determine whether or not we needed to pull that because of the wording in the narrative, or are we covered from the discussion in August 2019, I believe?
Yeah, I believe we're still covered from that. I will defer to Ms. Mayer.
Stephanie, you're muted.
My apologies, Mr. Sitton. There's no change to this item from what it was last year. This is an annual waiver that we seek every year for our specific PACE and QUEST programs to do what they do so well.
Okay. So if there's a way that next year, if it's going to be very similar, if we can reword that final sentence, that way we don't have to, we won't need to question that next year.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. So is that consent then at this point? Okay, consent. Item J, general waiver of state reading instrument for kindergarten. Consent. Item K, 2020-2021 student code of conduct. Consent. Item L, adoption of records retention schedule of the Texas State Library and Archives Commission. Consent. Item M, architect selection for 2020 theatrical lighting project. Consent. Item N, deductive change orders. Consent. Item O, general contractor selection for Kingwood Middle School replacement. Consent. Item P, architect selection for phase 3 of the FEMA flood mitigation project. Consent. Ms. Toomey, if you could read that back to us in the form of a motion, please.
I move to approve the consent agenda items A through P.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor? That would be 7-0. All right, let's move on to our action items. And let's see, we have item 6A, which is the TASB Director candidate endorsement, position 4B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Let's open discussion.
Hold on.
Wait.
What's the motion? There's two people. Are we going to are we trying to nominate both of them or endorse both?
It was my understanding that we had to open it with a motion for discussion and then amend that motion for with a specific candidate.
Well, then let me go ahead and read the motion, just so we have that on the table, and then we can open it up for discussion.
Okay.
Perfect.
I move that the board approve the endorsement of candidate blank for election to the TASB Board of Directors, position 4B. Should I say the names? Darlene, how do you pronounce her last name?
Bro.
Or
Louisiana.
or Paige Randier.
Rander, yes.
All right. I know them both. I can't pronounce.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second to open discussion?
Second.
All right. Would anyone like to propose one or the other at this point in time? We've been given some information on the two candidates. I've got kind of my own opinion, but if anyone would like to begin before I jump in.
I'd like to chime in.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Dixon.
Well, I know Paige Rander and Darlene Bro. One is from the A-Leaf ISD board and one is from the Clear Creek ISD board. It's definitely a challenging, tough decision because both ladies are service-minded women. They are both very intelligent, and I think they both be excellent options for the board. So we have two excellent candidates, and I know that's not helping any, but I do know them both personally, and I think they both would make really good candidates. But I'll hear what everybody else has to say and determine if I want to chime in more later.
If we have two excellent candidates, then why do we need to endorse any? Why if they're equal, then I think we should just stay out of it. And then my 2 cents. So we don't endorse that often. I know a lot of boards do, but we don't. Okay.
I agree with you, Mr. Lopez. I was decided to abstain on this vote.
I also am having difficulty because both Darlene and Paige are wonderful, active women that would both be very, beneficial in serving in the position. And so that was it would be very difficult for me to choose between them. If I had to give an edge, obviously Paige is currently serving in that position. She did go through the interview process to be appointed into that position to fill a vacancy recently. So I do respect that she went through that process, but they are both wonderful choices.
And I agree with Ms. Toomey. They're both good. I know them both. Paige is presently in the position, but like I say, it's hard to decide which one.
Okay, so that's the purpose of the conversation, because I personally don't know either one of them. I'm just looking at resumes. So I would concur with Mr. Lopez and Mr. Scarfo. I'm not sure how we need to amend this motion if we decide to not endorse and let it go to the floor at TASB.
So, Mr.
If that's
Sitton,
the case, I'm sorry.
Ms. Dixon, go ahead.
If it goes to the floor at TASB, being the TASB delegate, so I guess at the end of the day, we would have a discussion and it would fall on me to vote for one of them.
You would vote. What happens when you're a delegate is that we basically put our trust in your hands, Martina.
Okay.
Which is correct. Being a delegate, I can tell you they trust you. So yes, Ms. Dixon, you would be the one who would vote.
Okay.
Yeah, but just the endorsement is just, when they get up there and give their speech, they can say, they say, I'm endorsed by these districts, yada, yada. And if they're both equal or more or less equal, then we don't endorse them. There's been many, many times that we haven't.
Well, I thought if you got enough endorsements, you didn't have, you could.
Right, if you get 25%, right? Right.
I'm sorry?
I don't think you have to, if you get 25% endorsements, then you
That's what I'm
actually
saying,
have
right.
the position.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
So it is a big deal to get the endorsements.
Martina, did you have a preference? You mentioned you like both of them, but you said
I do like both of them. I mean, I really do, honestly. I would say just kind of what Lori was mentioning, you know, Paige did go through the process. She has more board experience. You know, she's been board president, vice president. Darlene, I think she and I are both kind of on the same level, like we've been, you know, on the board probably around the same amount of time. So, I mean, I think if you're just looking at resumes, one, you know, definitely has more experience than the other overall. But it is definitely a hard choice. I mean, like I said, they're both sharp. So, you know, if I have to make a decision alone later, I still would want input from the board. So
would you recommend we not endorse tonight? Is that what you're recommending?
Well, I really wanted to hear the feedback from the board to see, you know, if there was any leaning towards one candidate or the other. But if the majority feels like we should wait, I'm okay with waiting. You know, I didn't really know our history with that. If we, in the past, I mean, Charles was obviously on the board. So in the past, I'm sure that's where our support was headed. And then the only other thing is, you know, I was, you know, had a conversation with former President Morrison and President Sitten about this position and considering it for myself. But when I heard that Paige was that person in that position, I decided to not have my name put in because I did feel like she is a very good person to have on the TASB board. So it's a challenging decision. I mean, like I said, I like them both. They're both great women. So if the board is kind of on the fence, then I'm okay with that and I can think it through some more. But if not, I'm happy to vote tonight either way.
I would, me personally, just looking at resumes and not knowing either candidate personally, if you look at Paige's resume, she's a master trustee through Leadership TASB. She's attended NSBA Advocacy Institute 3 times, TASB Legislative Council 4 times. She's a LAC representative to TASB's board of directors.
I think she also did LTASB.
Yeah, I mean, she's
LTASB graduate. Yeah,
she is very well seasoned, and I think would represent us well. But
well, and Paige has worked very, very well on the legislative committee, and she's been representative for several years. And I've worked with her there, and she is presently, you know, and has worked very, very hard with Gulf Coast. And so she's an excellent candidate.
Mr. Lopez?
I don't know either of them. And first of all, secondly, you know, when Charles first got on the board, you remember what happened. They had the chosen candidate that was chosen by this committee. Charles got there and gave a speech and stomped that person in the vote. And so
that's true.
I was very proud of Charles for that, in fact, because he was kind of breaking the hegemony. And that's when I hear somebody that's been around a long time, are they an indoctrinated person or are they an independent, you know, thought? I don't know because I don't know her. And so, but, you know, I trust everyone else's judgment. But what I've heard originally was, hey, they're both great. And so I'm not voting on a resume. I'm voting on somebody who I think can be a strong personality and represent us well and is not a part of the groupthink that is TASB at times. And so if we can't decide that, then I think we just let Martina, whose judgment I trust implicitly, to make the decision at TASB to vote.
I would agree with that because I think whenever the board endorses, it needs to be a unanimous endorsement. And for some of us, again, I'm just looking at a resume. I don't know them. Mr. Lopez doesn't know them. Mr. Scarfo's expressed his interest from what we've done in the past. So I would tend to go that direction as well. Let's let the chips fall, and Martina, we can visit later.
Okay.
You know, and go from there. So Stephanie, how do we need to adjust our motion?
Okay, so we've got two options here. First off, Ms. Toomey made the original motion, so she could make a special request to the chair, to board president, to withdraw that motion. The board president then calls, if it is unanimous with the board, to allow the withdrawal of the motion. Then it's like the motion was never made. So that's option one. Option two is to amend the motion for a specific candidate. The board votes, and if it does not get the majority vote, then the motion would fail and there would be no endorsement.
So, Mr. President, I would like to actually withdraw the previous motion, if I could.
All right, we have a request to withdraw. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. Motion has been withdrawn. All right, perfect. Thank you. That was a great conversation. Thank you, everyone. So now let's move to our information items. We have item A, our normal monthly financial services report. Any questions? All right. And then it appears that we have a couple presentations. First one would be Kingwood High School, Kingwood Park High School Gym, and CTE presentation by PBK. Bear with us. And I tell you, once they get finished, item C is a presentation also by PBK regarding Quest Early College High School. So we'll let them go into that as well when they finish with Kingwood High School and Kingwood Park High School.
They're both in the meeting, Mr. Sitton.
I'm sorry?
They're both in the meeting. We're just waiting on them.
Okay, gotcha. Again, thank you all for your patience while we work through some technical issues.
Mr. Sitton?
Yes.
Mr. Prince, who is doing the presentation, has exited the webinar. I'm not really sure. And Mr. Ramirez that we have in the meeting is another one of the possible presenters down there. So we're just waiting, I guess, for Mr. Prince to come back online.
Okay.
Rusty and Mr. President, this is Eduardo Ramirez from PBK. I am assisting Greg with this project, but I believe he's still trying to connect. I can see him on the camera, I just can't hear him.
Yeah, that's we can see him, we just can't hear him at all.
Correct. Let me try to text him. So.
Looks like he does not have a microphone selected.
Okay. I would say we would postpone this, but I really want y'all to see these presentations. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with what they have.
It'll be worth the wait.
Yes.
Can we move to the online
Yeah.
learning update?
Yeah, I was going to suggest the same thing. Can we move ahead to the online and come back whenever they get their technical difficulties resolved?
Yeah, Dr. Fagan, are you okay with that?
Yeah, if Ann Johnson and those folks are ready to go, that might be their way to go.
I'm bringing those guys in right now.
Okay, great. I see Melissa, but she's muted. There she's not.
All right, so this information item is item 7D, Humble ISD Online Learning Update.
I sort of previewed this earlier. You can't believe the amount of work this team has done. As the TEA guidance came out for asynchronous learning, they just jumped right on top of it. So I'm very proud of the PD they've done, the work they're doing now. So very excited to introduce. So far, I've seen Melissa Hayhurst, Elizabeth King. I'm not sure who else is on, but maybe Ann Johnson. So Melissa, I think I'll turn it to, I see Debbie Perez. So I'm not sure who's going to be the presenter. I'll turn it over to you, Melissa.
Thank you, Dr. Fagan, and thank you, board, for this opportunity to provide you with some insight into our online teaching overview. I do believe that Dr. Johnson was going to get us started. And so, Ann, if you are available, if not, I can get us started. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started out of respect for everyone's time. Dr. Fagan did mention at the beginning of the board meeting that as everyone is aware, TEA has really presented us with an ever-changing environment for how we are going to move forward in the fall of 2020. And one of the things that is without a doubt certain to all of us is that we have to be prepared for both face-to-face and with remote, with virtual learning. And so TEA has recently shared some expectations that they have for districts in regards to online learning, with the understanding that what we experienced in the spring, while they were very pleased with what school districts did, and to be quite honest, I was amazed at what Humble ISD was able to really put out for children and for parents at such a quick, immediate turnaround. That will not suffice for the state, particularly in regards to attendance. And so we want to focus our attention this evening on two parts of our teaching programs because we are not certain of what lies ahead. And I think everyone has spoken to that this evening. We've designed a certification program for teachers who will be teaching primarily virtually, as well as for teachers who all of us at one time or another during the course of the year will be teaching remotely. And so with that, we had to consider several things that both the state and the district, and first of all, board, I think that it's important that you know that we started with the district vision and the goals. It is important to us, every single thing that we do, that high quality instruction, that personalized learning, student engagement, authentic learning, and of course, portrait of a graduate are part of what we do. Those are the goals. That is the vision that Dr. Fagan and that you have set for us. And so then it was a matter of, okay, if this is our vision and this is what speaks to us, then how do we take the state expectations and infuse those into our vision and not the other way around? I think a lot of times it's very easy to start with the state expectations of engaging learning every day and then just try to fit your vision around that. And that's not how we designed these programs. And so you will see on the right-hand side of that slide the expectations that the state has. And as you can see, it's very important that we're able to show growth and proficiency and that we are able to engage students in learning every day. Now, how the state defines engagement is a little different. It's not just having a child in a seat. And I think that's what's critical. We are really revolutionizing the way we define attendance and engagement. And so with those ideas of the district goals and the state expectations, we then went into, so what are the strands that are needed in order to meet those goals and the state expectations? So we have 4 strands. Again, it's about how do we take high quality design processes? How do we take those ideas of learning structures and classroom culture, and then the learning management platforms and the purposeful digital integration? I want to start with and spend just a little bit of your time with the high quality design processes. What we understood is that what happens in the 4 walls of a classroom don't look exactly the same way in a virtual environment. And I think that's a given to all of us. And so we designed what we are calling an instructional plan or a learning set that is tied directly to the campus's platform. So imagine if you're at a secondary campus, we know that they are using Schoology. Thank you, Dr. Fagan and School Board. And so they'll be using that particular LMS. And so we took our curriculum frameworks that we already had that bundled the TEKS and had essential questions, and we designed what we are calling an instructional plan. Now, what's a little different about this is if I'm in front of students, my communication is a given. My communication with my students, my communication with my parents is a given. But when you move into a virtual environment, you really have to be strategic with how you're communicating with parents, with students, so that we don't have, quite frankly, some of the confusion that I think occurred when we first started this journey in the spring. We were all over the place using many different platforms, using many different digital tools. And so how do we make this much more purposeful and communicate with our community? These design structures also allowed for teachers to engage with their students on a regular basis. And if you remember when I was speaking about the expectation of engagement, our design process speaks to that, so that we not only are ensuring learning, but that again, we're able to check that box with the state for attendance. The other structure that I've briefly touched on is culture and learning structures. Dr. Fagan has said numerous times, and I've heard numerous times, that culture trumps strategy every day. And what I think we've built in our culture can't be compromised just because we are no longer face-to-face with our students. And to be honest, it's been a struggle, I think, for all of us to acknowledge that we are social creatures. And so in these strands, it's important that we are maintaining our culture, our classroom culture, our relationships, but we also have to think differently about how we organize our learning. It doesn't always and can't always be the whole group. We've got to think about small groups, about one-on-one, about tutorials. And so then the other two strands are the management platforms and the purposeful digital integration. And so I've given you, again, district goals and visions, state expectations, the strands that we thought about as we designed these programs. And now Elizabeth King is going to share with you the two specific pathways that we've created for all of our teachers, the remote teaching, and then later the online certification. So Elizabeth?
Good evening. So as you look over the remote teaching basics requirements, you'll notice the expectations which fulfill the state requirements and the options Humble ISD teachers have. It's important to note that many of our teachers have already had the opportunity to earn credit since spring break. In fact, this is a really cool statistic. We've awarded 6,384 remote teaching credits already, and from that, 2,300 are unique users. Additionally, Digital Learning began offering teachers virtual badges for virtual sessions they attended this summer. And in June alone, we awarded over 4,500 badges to participants. And registration for e-courses and virtual sessions scheduled for July are still coming in.
So the other pathway that we have designed for our teachers is the online teaching certification program. And this is basically an opportunity for teachers who will be teaching the online sections to not only undergo the remote teaching basics, but to extend their learning to include additional sessions in order to qualify for a level 1 standard certification or level 2 advanced certification. And what's really cool about these opportunities for teachers is that we design these outcomes and takeaways and artifacts that they're creating around those strands and around those goals for the district, and then of course our state requirements. So what they end up with is a list of sessions and professional learning opportunities that are really going to fortify their craft as an online instructor. And then additionally, they're going to be able to continue to earn badges for each of the sessions that they're able to attend and show evidence of mastery through an artifact. And after they collect their badges, and they're going to have a digital portfolio and a place to put those in, they'll be able to earn those certifications and continue their growth. We've had many teachers who have already started these sessions as of this week, actually, and many of the sessions from June that have also qualified them to begin earning these types of certifications. And we also know teachers who may or may not know that they want to teach exclusively online or teach online sessions, but they've already shown interest and have already asked about, can I still get certified even if I'm not going to be teaching an online session? And the power with that is at any point, we may all be an online instructor, given any situation that happens. So we're very excited about the fact that these certification sessions are allowing teachers an ability to really grow and promote and continue their learning past this summer. And down here at the bottom is the example of some of the badges they may be able to actually earn and put in their emails or put in their platforms to communicate with their parents, for example, that they've really undergone some intensive training that allows them to promote the student engagement and accountability and learning in the classroom. The training won't just stop there though with these certifications. What we do know is that, like I mentioned, we started the sessions for remote basics and certification starting this week. Many of the sessions that we have live have already been completely full and we have people on waiting lists. A lot of these sessions are also offered in e-courses. So it really helps a teacher in their flexible scheduling right now. If they're not available during a certain time, they'll have access to e-courses. And any of the upcoming professional learning events that we have coming up from now until the beginning of the school year, infuse these trainings and also infuse that very rich content alignment to ensure that teachers are not only getting support in not just their teaching craft, but also the curriculum and the content support. So we're very excited about the events that are coming up, and we're also excited about the fact that in June for our professional learning, when we really started to kick a lot of this off, we had, and this number is almost double what we've had in the past, 11, almost 12,000 seats that were filled with teachers trying to take digital learning sessions, content sessions, sessions about blended learning, sessions about online learning. And so the excitement was completely overwhelming for us because we only planned on offering a week and a half of June PD around all this. I mean, teachers have been teaching in the classroom for 10 weeks. We just assumed they were going to be burned out by the computer. And so we put out this schedule out there, and Dr. Johnson said, okay, don't overschedule because we may not have too many teachers this year as we have in the past. And within minutes, sessions were completely full, and what was supposed to be a week and a half event turned into a 4-week event where our teachers were dedicated and our teachers were really, really interested in attending the sessions that helped them sharpen their craft based on their experiences that they had in the spring. So I wanted to share that statistic with you because that's a very, that really speaks to the leadership that we have and Dr. Fagan and you guys and your vision that you've set for us. And teachers are actually engaged and involved in that professional learning around it. And you're muted. I tell her that a lot.
She did make it online though.
And she's still muted.
I think it's on purpose. I just have to tell you that I think all of this speaks, first of all, to the dedication of our teachers in Humble ISD. And certainly, you know, just to underscore some of the points that Dr. Fagan made earlier, for these people to make a quick shift in right after spring break and move to online with very little, some of them with very little training, some of them very skilled. It was very difficult and very challenging, but they stepped to the plate. And then when it came out that what we did was a valiant effort from the state, but we really had to up the game this year and the expectations were much higher, the folks on this team really stepped to the plate and really looked at the training that we had. And we didn't want to sacrifice the goals and what we believe about learning in Humble ISD. So what we did is we went ahead and designed it from that perspective. And as Melissa talked about, we really integrated the requirements so that we know we're fulfilling those because it is tied to our state funding and it's very important. So I just want to make one other comment and then I will open it to questions. I cannot say enough about these folks and the amount of time they put in. And I greatly appreciate your comments, Dr. Fagan, because two of these ladies right here, I don't think they've slept. I know they don't because on weekends they are texting me. Some of them are texting me at 4:30 in the morning with new ideas and let's go. And it takes that kind of commitment, but we can make this happen and it's very exciting. And it's very energizing, even though we're all a little tired. So we want you to know that we're not going to have all the T's crossed and I's dotted, but these folks are really working to put all of these classes into e-courses too, to make them easily accessible to teachers so they can either do Zoom sessions and or do e-courses. With that, I'll just, if you have questions, we would be happy to respond. And if not.
Well, not a question. I just want to make a comment just to ditto what you just said about your staff. Y'all, we left for spring break last year and never came back to school. And y'all had to pivot on a dime, which is what we've become accustomed to. And the platform that you put together is nothing short of amazing. And the turnout and the dedication of our staff goes back to my opening remarks of tonight's meeting is, you know, we are a family, but our priority is to educate kids and in any way possible and in the safest way possible. And this online learning platform that y'all have put together, this training platform, ensures in my opinion, that whether a student is in the classroom face-to-face, which is where we'd all prefer, or if they are at home doing it through distance learning, they are getting the best possible instruction that's available. And I want to hats off to y'all. Y'all have put in numerous hours to put this together so that we can show the public that every student will be educated in the best way possible for that particular student and their family.
I have a comment as well. No questions. I just want to thank Ann, Melissa, Debbie, Elizabeth. Thank you so very much. You know, as a school board member and as a parent in the district, I do agree as well that it was seamless for my kids at home in the spring, but I'm looking forward to their education in the fall as they've chosen the method where they're online and UIL. So we'll see how that plays out for them or for me maybe. And I just want to thank you. I love the idea of the online teaching certification program. I think that's really key because as a teacher, most teachers have used something online, right? But it kind of sets like, okay, where are you in this space? And I see great benefit for that for all teachers. So thank you again.
Questions, concerns, comments?
Yeah, I have, Mr. Sitton, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Scarfo.
And I've, whoever, I don't know who I'm really asking you to. In terms of the certification, what exactly does it mean? How many days of instruction is involved? Is it 1 day, 1 week, 2, whatever, you know, and how, what's the end product in terms of how you determine if somebody's really ready or qualified yet to do it? Because it's not a simple skill, and it's not something that is really, I think, one that comes naturally to everybody. I mean, some people more than others. But so I just wonder how you judge that, how that works. And then the second part, or the second question is, I really didn't hear anything specifically to what our SPED teachers, what kind of particular training they got in this environment, this platform, because they have a little bit of a different road to hoe, so to speak, and I'm concerned about that, and I'd like to have you provide some edification to me on it.
Debbie and Elizabeth, do you want to speak to the online certification?
Debbie, you're muted.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, that never happened to me. So I would like to pull up again, just as a way to perhaps attempt to answer the question about how we know that teachers are going to be ready for the things that they're experiencing. The sessions that were designed around either the standard or advanced allow for progression of those skills, like you said. Some of them are a lot more complex than others, but the planning around these sessions urges teachers to produce an artifact that they're getting support on during the session. This specific certification plan also allows for follow-up. So teachers who are teaching in the online setting and are engaged in this will be meeting with us on a monthly basis to be able to look at the artifacts they're producing within their teaching, so that we can have coaching opportunities, so that we can have collaboration opportunities, so that we can refine and adjust and really ensure that what's happening in the classroom is not just a one-time event for a PD and then done, but there's ongoing support and evidence that is collected at each step of the way. As the advanced sessions progress, you'll notice a lot of these sessions are also married to the type of learning experiences that any teacher experiences, whether it's online or not. For example, PBL, for example, self-directed learners, for example, using instructions around stations and being able to measure learning through those types of structures. We do those types of sessions already with all of our teachers. What's really cool about this specific plan is that When teachers agree to become or are going to become the online teachers, they're also agreeing and committing to follow up so that we can look more closely at the implementation levels at each of these types of outcomes that they will be experiencing and producing as a result of the learning. So level 2s kind of help us gauge where that learning is, and the follow-up is really crucial to that. So we're excited to be able to add that part to this plan.
I want to stress that the artifacts that they're going to be producing are things that they will use directly in the classroom. We tried to make it very practical. So if they had to, one of the requirements from the state is having an instructional plan that has the schedule and the information that you would share with parents, with students, the expectations. That is just a sample of one of the sessions that they would complete, but in that they would actually complete their instructional plan that they can use in their classrooms and share with parents. So I've tried to make it very practical. In reference to your question in regards to SPED, Henry and his team are working very closely with all of that division. And I know that they put together a series of trainings. In addition, I know that they've also put together digital sessions that deal specifically with some of the students who have specific digital tools to meet their instructional needs. So he and his team have really worked on those kind of specialized training. The special ed teachers who are the direct teacher in a classroom or the teacher of record actually participate in this one. So it's twofold.
All right, anyone else? Questions, comments? Not seeing any. Thank y'all very much. Thank y'all for being here and spending the evening with us. Keep up the good work, and just know that that we appreciate every single thing that y'all are doing. The entire team, bravo. Good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes.
We have several members from PBK on now, so one way or another we'll make this presentation work.
All right, so we're going to move back to item 7B and 7C, which is Kingwood High School, Kingwood Park High School gym and CTE. And then item C is Quest Early College High School. So go ahead, guys. The screen is yours.
Well, thank you, President Sitton. Can you guys confirm you can hear me right now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. I sincerely apologize for the technical difficulties, and I appreciate you guys shifting the agenda real quick. So appreciate it, President Sitton, members of the board, Dr. Fagan. So as you mentioned, we're going to present our design development presentations for the Kingwood High School gym and CTE editions, the Kingwood Park High School gym and CTE editions, as well as the Quest Early College edition. So I'm going to start with Kingwood High School. And please feel free to interrupt with questions as we go. So the scope of work for Kingwood High School consists of a new main entry at the south end of Kingwood High School, and I'll go over that in just a little bit. A new auxiliary gymnasium with a new expanded lobby space attached to that, as well as the CTE portion of this project consists of a new nursing lab to be built on the north corner of the school. So just real quick recap. The main entry, the existing main entry, as you all know, is tucked back in the corner here on the south side. We'll be extending that with a new main entry canopy. Just to the right of that, we'll have a new auxiliary gym addition, as well as another entry canopy, very similar architecture for that, and an expanded lobby space to be attached to the auxiliary gym. And then the nursing CT edition will be here in the rear of the school, adjacent to the turf field that exists now. So just a little image of our existing entry to Kingwood High School. So part of the purpose of this is obviously to give a much bigger statement to the entry of Kingwood High School. Right now, it's something that it's a little difficult to read as you approach the school, and we wanted to give this this high school an entry point that stands out as you approach the school. So the canopy, this is just an extension of the canopy. It's not any interior work or any work to be done inside the building. So we'll bring that canopy out to the corner of the parking lot, as you see here in the site plan. And this is a rendering of what that might look like. So we're currently working in construction documents on this right now, but most of what you see here to the right is most of the existing architecture with some slight modifications. We're proposing some brick arches here to kind of tie in with what we're proposing here with the main entry canopy. This would be masonry columns, masonry archways, a raised roof, and it really just gives a much more grand entrance to Kingwood High School. No other work aside from the entry canopy in this image. All of what you see on the site is really just existing conditions to remain. Moving on to the gym addition. This is an image of what you see right now existing on the south, just to the right of the main entry. So this is an existing plaza space. We're proposing the auxiliary gym addition just adjacent to the current entrance to the left there. So this is give you an idea. The parking lot's here. There would be a slight modification to the fire lane that kind of wraps along the school here. So there would be a new gym, and I'll zoom in here. New auxiliary gym to meet current district standards. We've met extensively with Mr. Cte, Dr. Nazra, as well as the campus athletic staff to go through the design of this to make sure we're meeting all their needs. But it's really very similar to much of the auxiliary gyms you see throughout the district, and that would be the same for Kingwood Park as well. So just standard ancillary spaces, some storage. There is a canopy here to the right, so there'll be an entrance. This will be mostly used for exiting the gym to this current plaza here now that you see that band tractor trailer parked quite often. And then to the left, you'll have a new canopy. The architecture of that canopy will match and align with the canopy we just proposed for the new main entry. And then once you get inside, we'll have an extension of the existing lobby space to give it a much more grand entrance and highlight the athletics program here at Kingwood. Also with this, we also added a small merchandise store that they wanted to add here in this collaboration space. So there'll be a merchandise shop for school swag or what have you. And there has been talk about future use for that as a print shop, but just a multi-use space, but mostly right now to be used as a merchandise shop. Here's a rendering of what that would look like after we put the addition in. So you can see the similarities of the main entry addition here for the gymnasium. The auxiliary gym here with natural light here from above, some exterior signage, and then moving into the space. So this is what we're proposing as just some ideas for the lobby space. So a much more enhanced entryway into the athletics wing here. You can see straight ahead, this is the merchandise shop I was just talking about. So we have some built-in seating here, some display cases for merchandise, and then just a lot of athletics displayed here throughout with some kiosks, some screens that could possibly be there just to highlight athletics and anything else that the school deems appropriate to display. As you walk through the space, this would be a view back towards that main entry. So a glass main entry to the left, that would be the entrance into the gym itself. And just showing you some ideas of some graphics that we could put in that space to kind of jazz up the space. Some nice ceiling finishes as well, just to kind of keep it interesting. And then as you back up into that space a little bit further, we'll have some seating areas, collaboration spaces, to kind of make this a multifunctional, multi-use space. And then the view inside the gym, again, much of what you see here is just proposed for graphics and different ideas, but this will be a fairly standard auxiliary gym for your district. Moving on to the CTE edition. So this is the view of the rear of the school that exists currently. This building here with these windows is your current art classrooms. And behind you in this photograph will be that turf field that exists currently. So what's being proposed for the CTE, nursing CTE edition would be to connect to the existing school through a corridor that would be cut through the art room here to attach to the nursing CTE edition. This would be 3 classrooms, a pharmacy tech lab, as well as a nursing lab here, and some additional storage spaces. We worked with Mr. Larkin extensively, as well as the CTE staff, to make sure this meets the needs of their program. We feel it does. There will also be some natural light that we're proposing here. It is adjacent to that turf field, so we're proposing that those are high windows, just to cut down on the view between those classrooms and any activities that might be going in that turf field. And of course, let me back up here. There would be a new driveway extension and some parking added to this. The driveway extension actually has to be accommodating for a fire truck turnaround. This is a fire lane, so it needs a turnaround. So this is a hammerhead, as we call it, just to give enough turning radius and space for a fire truck to come in and be able to get out to serve the corner of this building. And just a quick rendering, really we're just extending the existing architecture of the building that's there now. Not proposing to change anything. Some windows on the front of the school here, and these are the high windows I was talking about on those nursing classrooms. The program, as I mentioned, I'm not going to go through these numbers in detail, but they meet all the needs of this project from all the different programs. Our schedule currently has the project bidding out, and we're on schedule to have it bid out at the end of October. A notice to proceed given in the early November of 2020 with a completion of next November of 2021. And all indications right now that this scope of work is currently within our budget that you see listed here. That concludes Kingwood High School. I will proceed to Kingwood Park unless there's any specific questions for Kingwood High School.
Really quickly, how many parking spaces do you envision in the new parking area behind the nursing lab? And
right now, we were able to add what we could fit. So right now, it looks like we have 9 parking spaces. One of those would be I'm sorry, not 9, 7 parking spaces, with one of those being an accessible parking space. Based on our discussions with the CTE director, they don't foresee any more need for any additional parking than that, but that is what we're currently proposing.
Are we losing any parking on the gym side?
On the gym side, let me back up to that, Mr. Sitton. So we are losing I think, a total of 3 spaces. I believe it's 2 standard and 1 handicap space. There was an option to maintain that parking, and you can kind of see the jog in the road here, sir. The reason why we shifted it was to make a little bit more of an entrance here. So post-game, you have a much more generous space for a plaza for exiting patrons. We could squeeze that back, and we had an option for that, but Dr. Nazra and Mr. Kite were amenable to losing just a couple of spots to make this a much more easy space to navigate.
So it's very minimal.
Very minimal, yes.
Okay. Anyone else before we move on to Kingwood Park?
I had to step out at the beginning of your presentation. I apologize for that, just for a brief minute, but I assume that all this is going to work with the flood mitigation measures that we're going to put into place?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Yeah, and of course our team has been and will be working on that. We're coordinating directly with them on making sure that there's no overlap that's unnecessary. We're actually using this, using as much as we can to take advantage of that overlap. But anything we're designing with the gym edition, the CTE edition, will be designed in the exact same manner as the rest of the perimeter design has to be done. So there is going to be a certain height of wall system that is put in for the FEMA project, and our building will be designed, actually it's being designed by the same engineer that's working on the FEMA project, and our goal is to have it performed by the same subcontractors for consistency.
So this renovation is going to be done at the same time as the mitigation measures for the FEMA project?
It could very well. I know that the FEMA mitigation project is ongoing, so there's not a set in stone construction schedule for that, but we're prepared to make it consistent whether this project starts first or the FEMA project starts first.
Well, I mean, I would hate to build a brand new gym.
Greg, I can speak to that a little bit. We have been working with a contractor to develop a phasing plan for the FEMA project, and as you just voted on, I believe we will be re-engaging them. We were looking at a 2-year construction project to go all the way around the building. The area where the gym is in a certain phase, and the area where the Cte Edition is in a certain phase, so that as Greg's project moves, we will be able to fit those in, and rather than building flood-proofing mitigation on the existing wall that will immediately be covered up by the gym and the Cte Edition, we'll just not do those. And then we'll have a giant permitting exercise where we have to merge Greg's project and our project with the city of Houston, now getting into the details, so that they understand how the entire project will be flood-proofed as a part of a massive permitting exercise with the city of Houston that we'll be undergoing in October at the latest.
So just to reiterate, we are not going to have any work being put in place that would have to be torn out or modified to meet the requirements of that FEMA mitigation project. Which I'm
But there's
assuming
a
is
chance that we can, I mean, did you take flooding into consideration in this design? Let me ask you that question.
absolutely. And Jeff, you can chime in, but yes, we're going to design this gym edition and the Cte Edition in the same way that we would, the same way that we're going to modify the rest of Kingwood High School to be flood proofed.
So for example, the CTE wing is going to be higher. Its finished floor elevation will be higher than the gym, so that we are not doing as much flood proofing on the CTE wing. We'll be using the same flood doors because we will have new entrances that we would have had. We will have the same backflow preventers and check valves that we need for all the sanitary sewer and water lines. And so it's just one of those things to where we believe we can time it to where the same subcontractors, and so it's kind of a complicated bidding phase to where the contractor for the FEMA project is actually building the first 8 feet of the project that Greg just showed you for the gym to ensure the quality control that we need to prevent a flood event. And then from 8 feet up, the contractor building the rest of the gym would take that the rest of the way and finish it out. And so all of these conversations have been ongoing with the same engineers and your Humble ISD construction team pretty much since the initial award of this project to PBK earlier this spring.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. Well, let's move on to Kingwood Park then.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, Kingwood Park. So very similar scope with a little bit more CTE involved in this one. So we'll have another gym edition, auxiliary gym edition, much like you just saw for Kingwood. This project will also have some CTE projects. One of those will be a new tiny homes workshop and some district-wide CTE office space, a new culinary CTE lab, and upstairs we'll be renovating some interior space for a new mock courtroom and classroom. And then we're also talking about an alternate for this project to renovate the main entry to Kingwood Park. So just real quick, we have a new gym entry. I forgot to mention that. Here on the south side, the Larry Coop Athletic Center, we're proposing a new entryway to that athletic center here. Tiny homes workshop and an architecture classroom, as well as CTE administration space here. New auxiliary gym rear here, just adjacent to the playing fields and the training area on this side of the school. There's an existing courtyard here. We're proposing the new culinary lab and some outdoor seating. Upstairs on this end of the school, we have the new mock courtroom being proposed. And then here on the main entry, we're going to show you some options for a new main entry that we're looking at as an alternate for the project. So just an image of what you know right now to be your Larry Cooper Athletic Center entrance. We're proposing an additional canopy here, much like what you saw at Kingwood High School's main entry. This is what you would see here after it's completed. The architecture ties into the existing architecture as far as the brick colors and be a masonry addition here, masonry columns. We tie all the way back to the entrance to the gym and the natatorium. We also have, as part of this, to change out some of the existing green metal that here on the natatorium to kind of tie in with the new addition here. And this second slide is really just a slide that we put together to kind of show you two different options for exterior signage. We can dig into that as we get further down into the project, but I know we want to maintain this as an entrance to the athletic center and not just a gym entry. CTE edition I talked about. So this would be a tiny homes workshop. Currently this school does not have any area for these tiny homes to be built. So this would give them an indoor workshop with a large overhead door, wide enough and tall enough for a tiny home built and assembled and loaded onto a tractor trailer flatbed to be pulled in here, loaded up and pulled out. Attached to that, we will also be relocating the architecture classroom from the existing school into this space to be adjacent to the workshop, along with an office and some storage. And then adjacent to that with a separate entrance and a separate attachment to a new corridor would be part of the district-wide CTE redistribution. So we'll have a couple of offices, a conference room, and reception. So we've worked closely again with Larkin and his team, as well as Ms. Driving on this program and the architecture director, teacher, to make sure this program meets all their needs. Also with this, we would be expanding this driveway here and adding some parking, as well as relocating an existing storage shed that's out here now. And this would just be a look of what that would look like from the outside, an extension of the existing architecture that's there now, high bay space. This is that large door I was referring to, large enough to pull that tiny home in and out. Some north windows here for some good daylight into that space. This last parking spot is where an existing storage building exists, so we'll relocate that, expand a little bit more parking in this space to serve tiny homes, but also mostly for the CTE office space, which that's what this small storefront entrance is here. All right, the gym addition, just adjacent to the training area and the practice fields. Again, a standard district, standard auxiliary gym. For this campus, we did include a little bit extra athletic storage, working with Mr. Kite and the coaches and the principal. There's a lack of storage, as there always is, but it seemed like an especially small amount of storage for athletics on this campus. So we did expand our typical storage room to maximize this space to give them as much additional athletic storage as possible. And then you can see here there's an attachment to what you'll see in a moment of a new enclosed covered walkway that will replace the open breezeway that's there now. And that'll tie back to the commons as well as the culinary arts edition. And this would just be a view of what that would look like from the outside, from the athletic field side. And the interior shot as well. Again, just a stab at some graphic options that we could put into this auxiliary gym, but obviously we'll work closely with the district and the campus to further that as we get further into design and construction. So just next to the gym, this right now is an exterior covered breezeway. So that would be removed and it would be replaced with a new enclosed walkway. In that courtyard, we'd build a culinary lab kitchen addition, as well as a classroom bistro attached to that. So this would be for instruction. If this program ever decided to use this space for fundraising or any kind of nighttime events, this could be used for like a bistro setting. So it's a flexible space. The culinary kitchen lab also has a window that was requested by the CTE department, a window to this exterior space, also for serving food, if that's so desired. Then of course, attached to that, just some dry storage and an office space. View from that small courtyard. So right now, this is just some landscaping here, and from a maintenance standpoint, we didn't really want to add any additional landscaping that would be difficult to maintain. So we proposed some paved areas here for outdoor seating. That's that window I was just talking about that could possibly use to be served food from the culinary lab itself. And then in the distance, you can see this is that new enclosed walkway that would tie into the gym and back to the commons as well. Moving upstairs, this is an existing open space. This is all just tables and computers in this space currently. They wanted to get a mock courtroom classroom here for the CTE department. So this is just some new interior walls that basically enclose this space, redistributing some of these computer stations. So we did not lose any computer stations in this space, but we were able to add a mock courtroom classroom with a faux judge and witness stand and juror seating for the use for that program as well. And then lastly, we talked about an alternate for the project would be to renovate the main entrance to the school. So we came up with several different ideas. I know some of you have seen these ideas before, so what I'm going to show you are a couple of different options. This is one option, and the second option I'm going to show you is just a different color of brick. But tying in with the existing school as much as possible, but while also trying to give this entrance a little bit more of a, I guess, for lack of a better word, a splash, just to kind of maintain the existing architecture, but also just give it more of a grand entrance to the school. So this, what you see here, is the existing upstairs library space. So we would just modify that existing storefront glass system. And we'd also be adding this canopy here to the left. It would project out almost to the curb, a little bit further back from that. New covered entry, some new glass here as well as some signage. And the second option, this was just another option we threw out that maybe would tie in a little bit more to the existing school, almost matching the existing brick that you see here kind of off in the distance. This first option was kind of maintaining the existing red color brick that's there now. And then this option kind of changed that to maybe tie in a little bit more to the existing space. But the architecture is exactly the same. All the program needs, again, I'm not going to go through these in detail, but they meet all the needs of the different programs we've discussed. The schedule is identical to Kingwood High School. Bids out at the end of October, notice to proceed early November with the completion of end of November 2021. And again, we are tracking on budget right now. And I did mention that the entry for Kingwood Park is an alternate to the project. So I'll pause here before moving on to Quest for any questions about Kingwood Park.
Anyone with questions or comments?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I would say that I really like the changes to the front entry addition that were proposed as the alternate. The current way that entry is set up doesn't really fit with our new security protocols of where, you know, cause you can't really tell if you go in on the right or you go in on the left as the main door. And since we've set up the new lobby with all the security going into the left, having that grand entrance really highlights where you're supposed to actually enter. So I personally really like that. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, not seeing any. Let's move on to Quest.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, so this is the addition to the old Cte building, which is now the new home of Quest Early College, which they are currently going to be inhabiting this fall, that existing building. And this project would be in addition to that to accommodate the future growth for Quest up to 600 students in the future for enrollment. So just give you your bearings real quick for those of you who may not know. Wilson Road here in Will Clayton, Humble High School and Turner Stadium. The old Cte building is just to the south of the school, which fronts Will Clayton, which is now the new home of Quest. And the new main entry would be added on to that, just to the south of that, with some modifications to the parking. And obviously this does tie in to the Humble High School project. We are working with the construction manager at risk on this, as well as the Humble High School project. So we'll walk you through the floor plan. Everything you see here in this hatch is the existing space, which ends approximately here. And everything you see here would be in addition to that building. So we would maintain much of the existing spaces as is with some updates on existing finishes. We would expand the existing collaborative space here now into a larger student activity center. Some new classrooms here adjacent to the front entry. And then the main space, you'd have a main secure vestibule with the administration just to the left. Once you enter into that space, you'd have a large community gathering space, collaboration space, a small learning stair with an open stair that leads up to the second floor. If you went down this hallway, it would be all standard general classrooms with restrooms and an exit stair, transversing stair here at the end of the hall. Moving upstairs, again, you'd have this open stair that leads you up to the second floor. This would all be a two-story space here. both in the main entry vestibule as well as when you enter the space for the main collaboration space. And on this floor, we have 2 science labs with a shared prep room and some additional standard classrooms. This, everything I just described does meet the future needs and the future projected enrollment growth for Quest Early College. And we work closely.
Greg, what is the capacity of this building?
The capacity of this building will be 600 total in the future. And it meets all the needs of the program. We work closely with Nichelle and her team, as well as Mr. Kramer, to make sure that the program needs are met. So just a little zoom in here. We've met with Nichelle and her team, as well as district personnel, just to make sure we're covering all the main administration spaces, as well as the clinic. And we have a secure vestibule to meet the district standards. When you come in here, you'll be able to check in to reception here, which will be behind glass. And then everything beyond that point will be access controlled. So just a view of this is what you'd see from that parking lot along Will Clayton. A little bit of a main entry stand out here in the center of the school. This is the 2-story space I was just mentioning. To the right, this would be the 2-story classroom addition. To the left, this would be a 1-story administration addition. And then beyond, there would be a small portion of the 2-story space that would also serve for mechanical space and a mechanical mezzanine. The exterior materials would be brick, some metal panel that we're proposing, as well as some stone here at the main entry, and some metal soffits as well. Some views from the interior. This would be looking back towards the main entry. These doors here would be the vestibule I just mentioned. As you enter the space, there will be a 2-story space here with a learning stair, open stair coming up to the 2nd floor. Some wood paneling, opportunities for interior graphics and or technology, whether that's screen or super graphics, we can decide that down the line. And then again, turning around, looking back towards the existing portion of the building, that open stair, and then to your left, you can see that student activity center we talked about, also being proposed. Down the hall, this is one of the collaboration areas that we're proposing some operable partitions. So these classrooms, you can't see the ones to your left, but there will be 2 classrooms to your left, 2 classrooms to your right. All 4 of those classrooms would have operable partitions both to the hallway and to one another. So you'd have the opportunity to open up all 4 classrooms to the corridor for a large gathering space. I know speaking with Nichelle, she's obviously it's always a challenge with Quest to have enough space to meet with the entire school. So this is just another area for whether it's student gatherings or teacher gatherings, or maybe some other uses that we're not even thinking about. The program needs, again, we talked about the capacities meeting the future enrollment growth. So I won't go through these in detail, but we have met with her team in detail to make sure this meets their needs. The current schedule right now has this, actually we're working on a GMP currently with Manhattan, the construction manager at risk. We're actually currently working for an early release package just for some early earthwork grading and site grading to get the project underway, as the goal for this addition is to be open by next July for a fall start of 21. So we're trying to get a head start on that currently. We're looking to get the main GMP presented to the board for your approval in September or October. Right now we're looking at September, and then construction, like I mentioned, to be complete next July. We're also still working with Manhattan and their team to get the project within the current budget, which you see listed there. So as soon as that is finalized, which is currently in progress, that will be presented to the board for approval. So I will pause there for any questions on Quest.
I have a question or comment, I guess.
Go ahead,
Mr.
Mr.
Sitton. Okay, thank you. So on the Student Activity Center, I know in building and planning, was there some discussion around that potentially, if needed, could be a future cafeteria space as well, like a double as a cafeteria space if needed?
Yes, ma'am, that has been discussed. So, and I forgot to mention, There is an alternate to expand that even larger. So you see here down here at the bottom of the screen, the alternate student activity expansion. Even with that expansion, I'm not sure that we'll accommodate 600 students simultaneously, but it has been discussed as a dining space. So not necessarily a kitchen area to be added for this, for food prep, but for food delivery and dining space, that has been talked about as one of the possible uses for that space. I'm not sure that that's the current plan for it, but that is one of the future discussions that we've been talking about.
I just wanted to make
trucks.
sure that, the options, that are available are all discussed, not just one big open activity center. It can be used for other purposes.
Absolutely. No, I think that was one of the main drivers, Ms. Dixon,
Yes.
was for dining space, but also just for meeting areas for the student body as well.
Thank you.
Just a quick note, we're currently wrapping up the construction on the third phase. And
with
Michelle,
Quest moving,
Mr. President, you're frozen.
okay, real quick. So what, I think this is where you were about to go, Jeff. I'm not sure, but we want Quest to move in relatively soon. So how are we going to?
yes, Mr. President, that's exactly what I was going to say, that we're shooting for them to move in July 29th so that everybody's ready to go August 3rd. Michelle and her team have been integral to the process. They're in every meeting. We've been meeting on a weekly basis, and they've been just such great collaborators to make sure that everything is ready for this first phase. And just wanted to say, as a Kingwood resident, this has been a long time coming. The Quest building was started out in the community center, then went to Summer Creek, then was at Lone Star, then was at Humble, and it's just so exciting for them to finally have a home, a permanent place for this exciting program that's critical to the mission of Humble ISD. And we're so excited to get done with the first phase here this month, and then get this construction going for the ultimate master plan, which is going to be a beautiful building addition to Will Clayton's scene across from the Wilson Road complex.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Toomey.
You have a quick question. So you had mentioned that the classroom size was enough to meet the future programming needs of the school in terms of the 600, potential students. What about parking? Do we have sufficient parking for that number?
Yes, ma'am. So I'll just go over parking real quick. So there is a larger parking lot, as you know, here in front. So the addition will be taking up a little bit of that existing parking. You'll see it just adjacent to that as also part of the overall project. There's a new larger parking lot with 333 additional spaces. So the delta here would be a large increase to serve both Quest and Humble High School. So right now, this 333 spaces would serve for Quest overflow from the 146 for the additional expansion or the enrollment growth that we're expecting. It would also serve this proposed tennis area that could possibly be here in the future, as well as Humble High School. But to answer your question specifically about Quest, the 600 student capacity, this 333 plus the 146 here would be more than sufficient to cover those needs.
And am I correct in that the plan is for them to share some services with Humble High School, like cafeteria, library?
Yes, ma'am.
Larger
yes.
for pep rally or whatever, not really pep rally, but whatever assembly?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. So for both for dining space as well as library space, any other resources that the school doesn't have now, they are planning to use the high school to share that. So they will travel currently for this year, coming for sure, to the cafeteria here in Humble High School, as well as here for the library space as well.
And forgive me if this is a really dumb question, but do we have any sort of plan for any kind of covering of walkways with rain and all of that kind of stuff and having to get over there for food?
Yes, well, so currently they have a covered walkway that leads, and I'll zoom in just a little bit, out this back door. There's a covered walkway that leads them to Humble High School. It currently exists now. It connects to the old Kate building, which will currently exist in the future as well. Now, for the master plan, we are proposing a new covered canopy that would connect through this on this west entrance here and back to the existing school. We're still working hand in hand with the school to figure out the best connection point for that future canopy. So with the existing canopy they have now and the future canopy we planned, we definitely want to make that a covered connection for sure.
I would say Mr. Sitton. Oh, there he is.
Okay, anyone else? All
Thank y'all very much.
I think that's a wrap. I'll take that as a wrap.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
Here late tonight.
And we appreciate your patience for our technical difficulties earlier. So apologize again for that. All right, I will stop sharing.
You're doing a great job. We appreciate the partnership, and
You're very welcome. It's our pleasure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sitting, you're lagging pretty bad.
Robert, maybe you ought to disconnect and reconnect.
Or let Martina or somebody close it out. Is Martina vice president? Who's vice president?
Martina, yes.
Yes, have Martina close it out.
Okay, well, thank you very much, PBK. We appreciate you guys coming out and sharing that for the entire board. Great work.
We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, let's see.
This is what happens when you mess up the Texas flag.
Right. Well, the next subject is E, and at this board operating procedures committee meetings. To discuss that, I do think that we probably should give Mr. Sitton an opportunity to log back in before we start that discussion. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. Because that discussion will be regarding how we move forward with our board committee meetings.
Ms. Dixon, we had one other information item, I believe. It's the parent-student handbook. We'd like to handle that. Well, Mr. Sitton.
Okay. That sounds good. So we can move on to F, the 2020-2021 Parent-Student Handbook. It's an information item as well. So who is leading that particular discussion?
It's really not a discussion. It's just that we provide it, in addition to the action earlier, we provide it for information. It's like financial reports and everything else.
Yes.
We have completed all of our presentation items.
Okay, good. So are there any questions regarding this parent-student handbook?
can you hear me now?
Welcome back, Robert. So we, Mr. Sitton, we did cover F, the parent-student handbook. I don't believe there are any questions or concerns.
Everybody looks frozen to me. Am I the frozen one?
No, we can
No
hear
one
you.
seems frozen to me except.
All your pictures are frozen to me. I'm like looking at still pictures. I can see Martina move now. Okay.
Sitton, you're still lagging, man. You're still lagging pretty bad. It sounds like you're in the Matrix. You need to probably call in. There's a number you can call in.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Sitton, I think you probably need to restart your computer and get back in.
May take a while, but
I guess the question I have is, can he hear us with these instructions? I sent a text to him, so we'll see.
He's completely out now.
Okay. Okay, so he got it. Yeah, so that's all we have is the board operating procedures, and then we move into closed session.
I think that's just China downloading his entire computer using Zoom is what that was.
Like he's connecting to the audio. Well, shall we continue to wait, or do y'all want to take a quick 5-minute break and come back? I mean, we have a long night ahead of us, it seems. So what is the pleasure of the board?
I mean, you want to move this informational item to next month's meeting and we can end the open session?
I'm okay with that. We can table it.
Yes.
So I move
Okay.
to table the information item to next month's meeting.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your right hand. That would be, I would assume 6-0, since Mr. Sitson is not available. Okay.
Can we still take a 5-minute break before we get back?
Yes, I think that's actually a very good idea. So how about we reconvene in closed session at 9:03 p.m.? Does that work for everyone? Okay, the time is now 8:57 p.m. We will now adjourn into closed session pursuant to the Texas Government Code section 551.074 for discussion of the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, or discipline of public employees, including discussion of the superintendent's annual evaluation and goals. Okay, so I guess we can all log out, leave the meeting, and I'll see you in closed session at 9:03. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see here. All right, Karen, we do have a quorum. I'd like to rejoin our open session at this time. It is 10:35 p.m. And with that said, I would like to close this month's board meeting at 10:35 p.m. Thank you all for being here and thanks for hanging out with us.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thanks, Robert.
You bet.